I'm the cook in the home. You know, my wife, she doesn't like to cook, and I don't want her cooking because it's not very good. But you know.
Hello my honeys, it's Emmy. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Emmy. I'm a nutritionist and the creator of the Slim on Starch program, where you work with me as well as a mindset coach and a nutrition coach so that you can lose weight on a starch-based, plant-based diet. Go to healthyemmy.org or click the link in the down bar so that you can apply to work with me and my team. Also make sure that you hit subscribe, turn on the notification bell so that you can be notified every time I upload a new video, which is every Wednesday and Catterday. I want to shut myself up right now and just get into this interview. This is one of the most enjoyable conversations I've had in a long time. Matt, you are going to fall in love with this guy. He is a joy to listen to work with. I'm so glad that he's a part of my life now. I've known him for 10 weeks. I feel like I've known him for 10 years. He just has that warmth about him. He's lost 40 pounds in the past 10 weeks. And like he says, he goes, I am not stopping. He's from down south, down in Louisiana, and he is eating Slim on Starch. His wife is eating this way. His kids are eating this way. And he is just a terrific example for what anybody can accomplish on this lifestyle. When you put your mind to it, you can do incredible things, which is exactly what Matt's doing. He's going to talk all about his story, being raised in the South, being brought up to not eat this way, being in healthcare. He's a nurse practitioner, being in healthcare and not being trained about nutrition, and how not being healthy was affecting his work, and how now he really is feeling aligned with his work and being his healthiest self. I don't want to take words out of his mouth. He's just such an inspiration. So let's get into my interview with my Slim on Starch client, Matt. Alrighty, Matt. So we are rolling. So why don't you give us an introduction to who is Matt? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Matt. I am a nurse practitioner for a cardiovascular group here in Lafayette, Louisiana. I have struggled with my weight for pretty much my whole life. I was born with a birth trauma, and I ended up having seizures probably whenever I started to be around 1 year old. And I was on multiple medications, neurology visits, and things like that. And one of the side effects from the medication is weight gain. So I struggled with weight, you know, my early childhood on into my adult life. And right about high school, I was taken off of the seizure medications, and I started to eat a little bit better and focus on my health. And I was running, and I did lose a good bit of weight in high school. But after I graduated and started college, it kind of crept back up on me. And the stress of college just, you know, they say the freshman 15 or what have you. So it ended up being a lifelong struggle. And I've tried multiple diets. I was on Weight Watchers at one point, and that worked for a little while, but I was always paranoid that I'd run out of food. So I'd find like these 1 point things and have like all this food to eat. And it just ended up not working. Tried keto, you know, all the mainstream diets. And I work with a cardiologist, Dr. Wade May, here in our heart practice. And he's been a vegan probably, I think, about 3 years. He's a big proponent, and he talks about it with all of his patients and tries to get them to commit to this lifestyle, right? Because it's definitely a lifestyle change. And probably about 6 months ago, I decided that I was going to go ahead and give it a try. So I started just a little bit. I was vegetarian, basically. I was still having cheese and, you know, dairy. And I was feeling better, and I lost a little bit of weight. And then I was looking at videos on YouTube, and I came across your Slim on Starch program, and that's basically where I'm at. And I started with you about 10 weeks ago. And so far I've lost 40 pounds, and I feel amazing, and I'm still doing it. I'm not giving up. I'm going to reach my ultimate goal of a healthy BMI, and I'm a huge proponent of it now. This is my life.
It has been such a pleasure to spend the past 10 weeks with you. And I'm so glad that now you're in the master's program and we have another 5.5 months together. Yes. I can't wait to see where this goes. So
I'm super excited about the master's program. You know, I really want to solidify that foundation that you laid for me in the first 8 weeks and be able to do this for the rest of my life.
I love it. So I want to get into your full story, starting at the beginning when you were a kid. But before we do that, can you tell us who those pictures are
Yes.
in your background?
So this over here is my little girl, Emerson. She's not little like that anymore. That's when she was sweet and not sassy. She's now 13 and she's a handful, but you know, she's awesome. And then this little guy right here, that is Breaker. That's my little boy. He's 7. He's not that little anymore either, but I have some great kids. And that right there is my little pup, Frenchie, and she's sweet. She's sleeping right there by me. That is my family picture right there. You can see it's actually a drawing, an animation, and that's our little family. Mm-hmm. So I don't have a picture of Stacy up there.
I know. You don't have a picture of the wife.
That's our wedding date, so I can remember it.
Your wedding date is my birthday.
Is it really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
That is cool. And the reason why I bring this up and have you tell us a little bit about your family is because I remember on our first phone call, right before we hung up and you were all ready to go and all set up, you said, "Oh, wait, Emmy, I need to make sure, is this going to work for my family? Can my family eat this?"
Right. Absolutely.
That really spoke to me about how much of a family man you are. Yes. So we'll get to that. But let's start back at the beginning. So tell me what it was like growing up, having the medical condition that you had and just being a kid, having to go through all that. What was that like growing up?
So, I mean, you know, as philosophies have kind of changed, but whenever I was growing up in the South, my family was always a proponent of, you need to make a happy plate. You need to eat everything that's on your plate. You know, you're not going to be able to go play outside if you don't eat everything that's on your plate. And I think that was a proponent of it as well. You know, we don't know, you know, what really caused it besides the medications, my seizure. And I think that's part of it. You know, back in the day, that was the older generation's mentality, you know, to eat everything that's on your plate or you're not going to be strong and be able to continue to grow. So I think that mindset is a big deal. You know, as generations pass, we realize and we learn that that's not always the right thing to do. So I think that was one of the things. We didn't do that with our children, and, you know, they aren't suffering with weight. Not that that is the actual cause, but it's definitely a proponent, I think.
And I think, you know, living in Louisiana as well, the culture and the type of food that's eaten down there is different than in Boston, different when I lived in Australia. You know, it's Southern cuisine. And so you've had so many odds against you and you've really come through the other side. With the weight struggles that you had as a child, were any comments made? Was there anything that said, you know, Matt, you're not in a healthy BMI, maybe we should get you on a diet? What was that like when you were younger?
Yes, my mom, I can remember my mom, you know, at one point, whenever my weight was really high and she started to get concerned, she would kind of limit the bad foods that we were eating and try to cook at home. One of the pediatricians maybe put me on a diet that I can remember, you know, and gave her like recipes. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I can remember that from my childhood. But it never really seemed to work, you know. So.
Mm-hmm. And then when did you start to take the initiative and say, I'm going to start to look into this? And tell us what that kind of looked like when you.
Probably whenever I entered high school, is whenever I started to get concerned, you know. I really never was teased whenever I was younger about my weight. Not that I can recall. I was always self-conscious about it, but I was surrounded by good people and I really didn't get, you know, teased, which I'm fortunate for because I know that a lot of people are victims of bullying and things like that. But it was in high school that I started to get concerned with it and started to exercise on a daily basis and just watch what I was eating. I would just eat less and I would look at the calorie contents on the things that I was eating. And I incorporated vigorous exercise. Like I was walking on the treadmill and running at least 5 to 6 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Did you find success in that?
I did. I got down to a healthy BMI towards my senior year in high school, but I wasn't able to maintain it because I was headed towards college and nursing school was very rigorous. So I ended up, not eating the healthiest things because I had to grab things quickly and go to class, studying a lot. So I didn't have time for exercising as well.
Okay. So you go to school, you go to nursing school, your weight is going up, then you graduate from school. What happens next? What does your health look like? What does your diet look like?
What happens next is I start working in the ICU at a local hospital, and I got hard on to work nights, which is terrible for your sleep cycle, eating. It is just terrible. You basically, you lose a day in transition whenever you are off, and it was not good for weight gain, maintenance, or anything, So that kind of continued on. Somewhere along the line there, I tried Weight Watchers and I did lose some weight, but not to a healthy BMI for sure. And of course, I ended up going back to nursing school again to become a nurse practitioner. And that was stressful as well because I had a full-time job, a family, and I was trying to go to school, So eating was not ideal as well at that time. So it really has been a yo-yo, my whole life.
Mm-hmm. So you're going to school to become a nurse practitioner. You're working in healthcare. Was there any talk about nutrition in your studies?
Believe it or not, in nursing school, there is only one course that is based on nutrition. And the only thing that I remember from that course is I had to write a paper on vitamin B12. That's it. That's all I remember. And the class was not it didn't provide a good knowledge base of nutrition, I'll be honest with you, and that's a shame for being a healthcare professional, So nutrition was not something that was part of the curriculum. And that is detrimental, I think, to society, just because medical professionals are the front line. They tell people, look, you're a diabetic. You should not be eating all these carbs. And here you are, you're eating all these carbs and, and it just, you see the irony behind that,
Mm-hmm. So, okay. So you become a nurse practitioner. Tell us what happens when you discover the vegetarian lifestyle.
So when I became a nurse practitioner, actually one of the pictures that I'm going to eventually share with you was in my scrubs, and I was at my heaviest at that time. I was a nurse practitioner whenever I was at my heaviest. And, it's really difficult to connect with somebody on a nutritional level whenever you are that size. And they're like, yeah, right. Why are you going to give me nutritional advice whenever, you're not at a healthy BMI? And I'm just not going to follow it, or I'm not going to be as likely to follow it, So that was a big struggle. And that's kind of in the line of whenever I started to do keto to have rapid weight loss and kind of get out of that, it's a vision thing, people want to be able to trust you, and you have to practice what you preach, I guess, if that, for lack of a better word, So I was in transition to start getting back on a healthy lifestyle, did keto for probably a year and a half, and I lost a significant amount of weight. I did. But of course, I work with cardiologists, and I would get looks all the time. Like, I can't believe you're eating all that fat, all this bacon. It's terrible for atherosclerotic heart disease, right? So finally, Dr. May, who's one of our cardiologists here in Lafayette, he was like, why don't you just try it? And he gave me the website to a vegan physician that he follows. And I watched it one day, and one of my buddies and I ended up deciding, okay, in a week, we're going to do this. We're going to go vegetarian, and then we're going to go vegan, and we'll stick with it. Right. So we did it for about 2 weeks, and he left me. He's back on eating the natural, the normal American diet. And I'm like, no, I feel too good. I'm going to continue doing this. Let me see. So I continued on, and that's whenever I stumbled across, Slim on Starch with you. And it's just taken it to a whole nother level, because it's not just about being vegetarian or even eating better. It's about a whole mindset. And I think that is probably the biggest thing that's changed for me. It's yes, the diet's important, but what's really important is the primary foods, which, as you know what they are. The primary foods are what you like to do, what you invest in, your family, religion, like spirituality, like all those soul driving things.
I'm excited to get into your primary foods. I want to make sure that everybody is getting this timeline right. So keto for about a year and a half. Before I move on, how did you last that long on keto?
Oh man, it was rough. I mean, I did it because my buddy was doing it for so long. He would cook things, and we'd just share recipes, and my family really didn't join in on that diet at all. I'm the cook in the home. My wife, she doesn't like to cook, and I don't want her cooking because it's not very good, but it's not very good at all. Like, she makes spaghetti, and that's where it stops. So, but
first, yeah. You don't have a picture of her, and now you're dissing her meals.
She's gonna be so upset. No, she's fine. Trust me, she doesn't like to cook. She wants me to cook, so that's good.
So you lasted, by the grace of God, a year and a half on keto. What was it that even made you make that transition?
The reason that I started keto, it was because I was in that transition, and I wanted to be able to connect with patients and have them trust that, look, he's a healthy BMI. Like, I can believe what he's telling me. That was a factor. But also, probably about 3 years ago, I had an episode of diverticulitis where I had a perforated colon from the diverticuli got inflamed. And I was in the hospital for a couple weeks, IV antibiotics, and it was not fun. I had severe lower back pain from the episode, and it really scared me. I didn't want to end up with a colostomy. That you always can have that chance where you have to have a colon resection and have a colostomy. I did not want that. So the surgeon told me that you either lose weight, or sometimes it doesn't matter if you lose weight or not. It could be hereditary. And my BMI was elevated. So, he was like, I really think that's your problem. Side note, though, my mom has had diverticulitis, and she had a perforation, and she also had a resection, but probably about 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. So it does run in my family, but I had the added risk factor of being overweight, So that was another proponent of me trying keto to drop weight fast, because having an unhealthy BMI can cause constipation. It can put pressure on your colon and cause these diverticuli to form. So that was another proponent.
Mm-hmm. So you white knuckle it on keto for about a year and a half. You go vegetarian. What did vegetarian mean to you at that time? What did your diet look like when you first transitioned?
So my diet looked like I ate a lot of Mexican food because I really didn't know where I was going with it. You know, it's hard to transition from a normal regular diet that you've been practicing your whole life and to just start all of a sudden. You know, I looked on Pinterest, I looked on YouTube at various things, but a lot of it, what I kept seeing was either Indian food, which I didn't know how to cook Indian cuisine really, and Mexican food. So a lot of my diet consisted of Mexican cuisine and cheese, and I still was eating dairy. So although I was not eating eggs and things like that, it was more along the lines of cheese because cheese is a hard one to get rid of.
Mm. Talk to me about this. You go from eating no carbs to you move over to vegetarian, and then you do Slim on Starch, like carbs galore. Talk to me about that.
So it kind of freaked me out because my whole life, what I do know about nutrition is you shouldn't eat carbs. Carbs are bad for you. They turn into sugar and you're just going to die from diabetes in 2 weeks, right? It's crazy. It's the truth. It's like, it's the plague. Don't eat a carb. You're going to die. I mean, it's totally, and I had that in my mind, and my wife she's a nurse as well. My wife was like, Matt, why are you doing this? Your hemoglobin A1C, which is an indicator that we look at, it tells you the average glucose for the last 90 days. My hemoglobin A1C was elevated, and it was like borderline diabetic is what they call it. So she was like, now you're eating all these carbs, your hemoglobin A1C is just going to be through the roof. Like, what are you doing? Because of course she doesn't know about it either. She's used to the normal standard American diet. So I just stuck with it because everything that I was seeing, especially from what Dr. May had shown me, was this is the way to go. It decreases inflammation. It's the way to go. So I just stuck with it. And then I stumbled upon you, and I've learned so much since we met. It's just been crazy.
Well, tell us what happens next. We meet, you start Slim on Starch.
So I start Slim on Starch, and the program is set up so beautifully that you provide the list of what you can eat, how you need to eat it, in what form on the plate, in what proportion size, and not like measure with a measuring cup. Like, look at the plate, half of it is this, half of it is that. Beautiful. So easy. And you don't even have to think about it after about a few weeks, And I think the biggest thing that I liked about the actual food portion was I was able to be free and kind of create my own recipes. I really enjoy, cooking and stuff. So that was a huge thing for me, was knowing what ingredients I can use finally and being able to make my own recipes. So I started, and I just started to see the weight come off. And another part that is really crazy is we look at hunger and fullness, and that is beautiful because you can eat until you're satisfied. You don't have to worry about anything else. You don't have to calorie count. You don't need another diet ever in your life. It's like amazing. So
you are quite the chef. You show me up. I feel like you're making my recipes because you make them so much better than how I can make them. And you love photography as well. And yes, this is a great intersection of those two things. Talk to me about that.
So my wife and I, whenever we graduated nursing school, my wife was into photography, and she bought a nice camera, how people say. And she started taking pictures, and I'm like, oh, these are good, like let's continue to do this. And she's like, no, we're not going to do that. So we ended up having Emerson, and we started taking pictures of our baby, of course, and it just kind of grew from there, word of mouth. We grew a photography business. We don't do as much anymore because, 2 kids, and we used to live next door to my parents, which was great because whenever we had a photo shoot or something, mom and dad would take care of the kids and we could go do our thing. But now we live like 30 minutes away from them, and we can't do that anymore. And she stays home with the kids. So we've kind of cut back on the photography, but it's still a passion of ours, you know? And now I just kind of transitioned to taking pictures of the food that I'm creating. And actually on my Instagram, I was doing that whenever I was doing keto. I would post recipes and things that I would make, and people loved it, you know? So I haven't been able to take as many pictures as I like because the time change, daylight savings, I hate it.
I hear ya.
I hate it. And I like to take pictures in natural light, right? So whenever I get home, there's no natural light. But I'm off today. So actually right before we came on to chat, I created a recipe and I took pictures for you.
You're the best. And you know what you need to do with those photos? You need to send them to me.
Yes, I will. I absolutely will.
And they're going on my Instagram.
Awesome.
So tell us about the meals that you are having that's allowed you to lose 40 pounds.
So I am having, what I've found that works the best for me is food prepping, not meal prepping, food prepping, which is one of the lessons that you teach in one of the weeks for Slim on Starch. It's food prepping. And I say that specifically because meal prepping is totally different. That's where you create a meal and you separate it out. Food prepping is you cook a bunch of different things and then you eat whatever you want whenever you get home or wherever you're going. And I think that that's probably been the biggest game changer in terms of food. I'm still able to create recipes that I like to eat, and I can incorporate it however I want. Like I'll make the cheese sauce and I'll add it on my vegetables if I want it. If I don't want that one day, I'll have something else. Probably the biggest thing that I've been doing, which is the easiest meal, is a sushi bowl. I just have shredded cabbage all the time, or chopped cabbage. I have rice on hand all the time, and nori flakes or nori paper that I crumble, and shredded carrots, and I put a liquid aminos and some sriracha. It's like the easiest meal. Sometimes I'll add chopped mushrooms. I'll add onion tops. You can do so much with that, and it's quick, easy, and versatile. Mm-hmm. That's probably my go-to meal that's not cooked, you know?
You've nailed the food, Matt. You've nailed it. A+, you got it. I mean, everybody watching this at this point, they know that you're highly intelligent. You picked up on it quickly. You're like, got it. At the beginning of this interview, you mentioned primary foods. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yes. So primary foods, like we were saying, is basically like for your soul. It's what drives you. It's your passion. And that's one of the main things that has changed so much with the Slim on Starch program for me, is just kind of stepping back and taking a look at myself and saying, what am I going to work on for me? What am I going to work on to build my family, to grow in this life? Because it's not all about eating healthy and all that. You have to be healthy mentally in order to continue on. And, you know, I have to be there for my kids. I have to be there for my wife. So spending family time with them is super important, you know. Emerson, my little girl, and as well as Breaker, they love to cook with me. So we kind of get in the kitchen, we make a mess, and Stacy doesn't get too happy about it, but we always clean it up. But there's stuff everywhere because whenever I cook, it's like an artist. It's like an explosion of stuff everywhere, right? So I clean at the end, and she's just had to get used to that because I'll have stuff all over and she's not happy about it. But, you know, I'm like, that's how I'm a messy creative. So that's been a big deal, is spending time with the kids and spending time with Stacy. She'll help us cook as well sometime. Going on bike rides with the kids in the neighborhood, that's been awesome. You know, just taking time. I work for a busy cardiology practice here in Lafayette, and I work long hours. I'm the breadwinner. The cardiology is my passion. I enjoy taking care of my patients. I love the company that I work for. That's also a primary food for me, is going to work and providing for people who are in need and sick, So it's the whole journey has been laced with primary foods. And I think that is what has benefited me the most.
So Stacy, your wife, and then your kids, Emerson and Breaker, are they eating the way you're eating?
Yes, they are, which is crazy. So my little boy ate a salad the other day, and when I tell you he never ate a vegetable one in 7 years, since he can talk, it's like crazy. Now they still will have meat on occasion and things like that, but not over here. We don't. I don't cook like that, and if I'm not cooking it, no one else is. So they have really grown to adapt this lifestyle as best as I could hope for, which is really great that they're getting the added benefit from it as well,
That's
and I think what's really important is my kids are learning how to cook like this as well, so they'll bring that on with them in their adult lifehood.
That's awesome. That's just tremendous. So I'm sure Dr. May, he's probably pretty impressed.
He is. I share recipes with him all the time, and he noticed the other day that I had lost some weight, and I'm like, look, I'm serious about this. No oil, no added sugar, no salt. He's like, no salt? This is like South Louisiana. Everybody puts seasoning salt on everything. I'm like, I don't use it and I don't miss it. Like, he's like, really? He's like, I still use salt and oil. But I mean, when I tell you, he's like 7 foot, he's not really 7 foot, but like I'm short. I'm 5'6", which is your height, right? So we're short compared to him. Like, I have to look up to him, and he's like so skinny and lean, he's full of muscle. He's just a cool guy. And I don't know, it's crazy for him to notice, that I'm succeeding in this, and he's the one that kind of helped me with it. So
do you feel that you as a nurse practitioner, you've changed in your job and your passion for it, and you're really walking the walk of health right now? Has that affected your work?
Absolutely. Yes, it's definitely helped with my confidence, especially when I'm speaking with patients. Not that I wasn't confident before, but I feel like whenever I speak to my patients, I just have more confidence whenever I'm saying it. Whether they took that or observed that or not, I feel more confident because, I'm like, I'm doing this thing. I'm going to get to a healthy BMI. So yes, it has affected, the way that I practice medicine.
And you sent us your new photo the other day when you're getting a new photo taken. You look so handsome.
Yes. So whenever I started working for CIS, I was probably at my heaviest, and I have my original professional headshot that the same photographer took whenever I started about 6 years ago. And I asked if I could take another headshot. I'm like, I don't even look like that anymore, and they were like, sure, the next group of people that go will set you up. So they set us up, and the photographer was like, oh my God, I took your picture 6 years ago. He recognized me. Wow. And that was pretty cool. So, and I was just kind of telling him my journey and everything, and he was like, man, that's awesome. So it's been really great.
Well, hopefully we're going to have you take another photo, and you'll be unrecognizable.
That will be awesome. Yes.
Was this not like the best conversation? He's such a joy. So thank you, Matt. I'm super excited to have you on again when you lost even more weight and we can chat more. Thank you, Matt. If you think Matt is awesome, then leave a comment below, and I'll see you in my next video.